2, 1. Alright, welcome to Bare Minds episode 5, where we talk about interesting stuff with all sorts of people from all sorts of perspectives. Today, carrying on from yesterday's discussion, we have 2 more guests with us, one from the Ivory Coast and another from Angola, grew up in South Africa. So we have plenty of perspectives to discuss what we have for you today. Today's issues include African matters within Africa, the continent, as well as America and beyond, how the Black community can unite and push for a better future. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Starting with Lucio on the right.
My name is Lucio Tavares Casimiro. I am from Angola, grew up in South Africa. I'm currently studying engineering science with an emphasis in petroleum and CSU Bakersfield.
My name is Dio. I'm from the DR Congo in the city of Lubumbashi. I've been here for about 4 years, and now I'm an architecture student at the University of California, Berkeley.
My name is Lonan, and I'm from Ivory Coast. I've been here for like 3 years now. I'm at Diaspora College studying business administration.
Alright, so do you guys want to talk about how you guys actually met each other?
Yeah.
That's actually a really cool story.
Yeah, well, I came here 4 years ago, like in 2012, September. And after spending about 2 months at a school called ELS Language Centers in Cupertino, I met Lucio, who was pretty much the first African guy that I ever saw in that school, because that school was predominantly Asian and European. So yeah.
And then we went to Dianza together.
Yeah, we went to Dianza together.
And in Dianza, then we met Lonan.
I was still at the English school
Right.
Yeah.
when I met them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, you came to Dianza too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since, we've always been friends.
Wow. You almost sound American already.
Well, I grew up in South Africa, and over there they speak English as well. I don't know if I still have my South African accent. No?
Not really, I don't
I
really hear
don't
it. I don't hear it.
Okay. But yeah, that's so English was it's technically my second language, but I've been speaking it for a while now, so it feels comfortable. Yeah.
So, I mean, as much as you guys are all fluent at English at this point, when you come to America and you experience the culture of African Americans and you contrast that with your lives back home in Angola, Ivory Coast, and Congo, respectively, what kind of differences do you feel? Like, do you feel sort of a barrier in the way that you communicate in the cultures, or?
For me, I would say many African cultures, or at least my culture, that where I grew up, we have a very conservative way of living. You know, the way we speak is very conservative. I notice, like, if I would speak to an adult here, we would have very, easygoing way of speaking to each other. But in Africa, you always have to use honorifics. You always have to be respectful in what you say. You can't always, and the way you have to speak as if you show a higher level of respect for the adult and other things like that. So a more conservative way of being.
Yeah, in America, it's quite almost everyone is like your friend.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah.
Have small talk. That was quite weird for me as well.
No, but you know what's funny though? Even though everyone is almost like your friend, I noticed that in the communities, like in the neighborhood, everyone is on their own different,
Yeah.
No one's intermingling
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's another difference that I noticed here as well.
Yeah. I think like for someone maybe coming from a French-speaking country, I think one of the biggest challenges is also just the use of slangs and stuff like that. It's a little bit hard, like when you come and you don't know the different expressions that Americans use, how to actually get to interact with them in a certain way. Like sometimes when they're talking, because of the words or language that they're using, you might feel a little bit stranger to the group. But other than that, I feel like somehow the African culture and the African American culture, I would say they are still, in the sense that they're both vibrant in terms of how the people are. But just like Lucio pointed out, like in Africa, like whenever we interact to someone who's older than us, like our parents always used to tell us that whenever you see someone who's my age or about my age, is your father. And it's really common for an African to call someone else who's not their father or uncle. So usually we have those kind of relationships. So the family bond is something that is really strong back home, I would say. Yeah.
Do you think perhaps maybe this sort of dilution of the culture of African Americans contributed to the way that people have been trying to deal with the Black Lives Matter movements, try to unite for one specific cause when for most of the time they're sort of scattered and not entirely unified. I mean, this is a problem like throughout the entire country, but especially within the Black community, the Black diaspora in Northern America, it seems to be difficult to have a unified group and a unified movement the way they did during MLK, and that movement never seemed to have it seems to have diluted over time.
What I think about that is, as we're moving forward and progressing as a society, we're having a lot of diversification. We're finding way more people from different races joining into a movement that has to do with one particular race these days than we would before. And in this diversity, people, I won't say have different agendas, but care about certain issues more, right? Under the same banner. So through that, you may see that it's not organized or it's not a proper organization, but it's a movement looking at issues that a particular group faces, different issues. And so when you see people following it in different ways, it may look like it's the disillusion or that there's not a real concise message, but it doesn't deny that each person has something in that movement that they want to be addressed. And maybe that's where some people say there should be a concise leader or a organizer of the group. But I think that's very hard to do in the world we live in now.
You think that's difficult to do?
Very difficult to do in the world we live in now.
Even with the technology that's made
I
it
think
so easy.
I think
to
especially with the technology.
You think there's too much noise?
Yeah, there will be a lot of noise. And I think that's one of the issues that we're facing.
So let's try to focus on the Black Lives Matter movement
Okay.
then, and maybe perhaps we want to talk about Black Lives Matter 2.0, like you were talking about earlier. But before we get to that, Black Lives Matter, it's one hashtag, it's supposedly one label, but there seems to be a lot of different interpretations of it, and a lot of different subgroups that have, it's a movement, not an organization. And as you mentioned, perhaps the answer to that is to have one unified leader to bring everyone together. But what do you unify these people around? What does Black Lives Matter really mean to you as members of the African community, but not necessarily members of the African American community?
For me, I think that the reason Black Lives Matter now like is perceived in many different ways, in all those different groups is just like we mentioned, is that we don't really have we have different kind of I would say voices around, and it's really hard to follow one specific leader. And I think some of the solutions that we can have to that, just like you pointed out, I think we need to have some messages that put us together. So things that we can concentrate on, just like, there is the police violence, education, economics, and all those stuff. So how we can rebuild the Black community. So I think all those should be embedded into one group so that we have, a specific thing that we're focusing on to actually get to make things better.
You just mentioned economics. That's what bothered me, kind of, because you should be focused on why the Black Lives Matter movement started. It started because Black people were killed for no reason. We didn't start a Black Lives Matter movement to be better, in an economics way or something. We just started it because we felt like we're being killed for no reason. This movement is not about being a leader or something. It's about how can I say? I'm looking for a good word to say. It's about our safety. It's not about economic stuff, financial stuff. No, it's about our safety.
Yeah, I agree with London there because if you have to look at that a group that's looking for the advancement of the Black community, we can look at the NAACP, and there's many other groups out there. But when we decide to take Black Lives Matter and add all these other things, that's when you make it a little bit disillusioned, Because Black Lives Matter came because people were being killed in ways where the community felt was not fair. A mother sees her child leave the house in the morning but doesn't come back because they were shot because they had candy in their pocket, but the police thought it was a gun. Things like that. Things like that should not be happening, and that's why the Black Lives Matter is looking to find justice for all races to be equal in the criminal system, and that all people that are police officers and law officials are held accountable when they use racial profiling on the basis of their decision. That is what Black Lives Matter is about.
What does holding these officers accountable look like though? Because just jailing police officers, or we're already at a shortage of good police officers. Just jailing them clearly isn't the solution.
Well, one thing that we noticed is also in the police community, many of them protect their own, right? Many of them protect their own, with good reason. But we have to make sure that when you do something wrong, you'll be held accountable. Let's say as a child, if you start doing something and you know you can get away with it, you'll keep doing it, right? But if you know that the law is, if you know that your mom will always hold you accountable when you do something wrong and be on you, you'll be a little bit afraid to do it or a little bit hesitant to do it. Because today, there's ways for them to go around the law and stuff like that so they can do what they do. And maybe they're not doing it inherently, right? But if they know that I have to be careful how I do my job, that people's lives are in my hand, and if I do it wrong, something's going to happen to me, then maybe we'll start seeing less lives being taken for no reason.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. Definitely.
So my point actually, so maybe that's where we diverge a little bit. I think that whenever people talk about Black Lives Matter and understand that there is police violence and things like that, I think that talking about the police problem only will not really solve the black problem that we have in our community. So we have to look at different aspects. So we have to look at why, why do police get called when black people are saying, or why do they shoot black people and all those different things. Like as we point out that there is a lot of profiling. Profiling is something that we all agree on, that police are usually profiling black people and people of color whenever they go outside, whenever they see someone who's black or someone who's dark, whether it's a Mexican or someone else, so they're gonna think that that person is dangerous or violent, and they're gonna be looking at that person more. So, but the thing that we're not talking about is the image that the society has on black people. So, like I'm gonna give an example here again in Berkeley. Like every day, whenever we receive a message from the police department, the person committing the crime is described as a black person. And I think that because of that, some people, they start to be afraid of black people. And we must also take into consideration that a lot of the police officers, they're not exactly God. Whenever they go on the field, people already have biases and they have all those ideas about black people. It's easy for them to react and shoot black people because of that bias. I'm not saying that that is right, but it's also something that we must take into consideration. We must look at that other aspect on how we can actually also help the black community change the perceived image, because some people, I believe, they become racist or biased, not because they were born racist or because they have a racist friend, but sometimes because they experience something in their life that make them behave in a certain way. If someone gets robbed by a black person, that person is gonna be marked mentally and might act in the future with that bias in mind. He might think that, all black people are violent or all black people act in a certain way, and whenever they see a black person, they might react erratically. It's like you're walking on the street and there is a black person following you in the back in Berkeley. People might be afraid. He's wearing how do you call this stuff?
A hoodie.
He's wearing a hoodie and he's black and he's following me behind. This guy looked like the guy in my description. What should I do? If he get too close to me, I'm gonna pepper spray him.
Okay.
Because he was about to ask me a question. So we must take those things into consideration. And I think that in order to solve, because when I hear Black Lives Matter, I don't only hear the fact that black people are being killed, but I also hear things like, better education for black people to make them more competitive with other people. I hear things like, better healthcare system, and just like, many things that come with that.
Okay, I see what you say, but like you just mentioned that police officers are not God, but while they're working, they should be neutral. They shouldn't profile people.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is that this is a utopic world. You know, like is that if you send the robot, the thing if you send the robot on a mission,
Yeah.
it's easy to make that robot not buy. You just put a command in there to make it not buy it. But because of human, you don't consider the outside influence of the different things that happen around the lives of those
Yeah,
people.
question,
Yeah.
real quick.
Mhm.
I have two questions,
Yeah.
and you can answer.
Mhm.
My first question is, right, if
Mhm.
you're having a stressful day and you have a
Mhm.
midterm tomorrow, and you finish that midterm and you failed, you can't tell your teacher, I'm not God, it was really stressful. So you need to understand that. I was more like, wait, two questions, right? Whether or not there's factors out there, your job is your job, and you have to do your job right.
Exactly.
If you do it wrong, that's on you, right? And second, you say we have to concentrate on the aspect of the stereotypes and the racial bias people have, right? So what is your solution to what should Black lives be doing by concentrating at the racial stereotype that society
Oh,
has?
yes. Oh, okay. So first of all, like I'm gonna start by addressing the first one where I said that
Okay.
police are not God,
Yeah.
and what I said about that. So the thing I'm not saying that the fact that police are not God should be an excuse for them not to be arrested and punished by the law. The law should be there to punish the police for the action that they're committing.
Okay.
But the thing that we must agree on is that here in America there is a police problem. It's
Okay.
not the problem that is specifically linked to black people. It's just that the police in the US is armed compared to other countries. Whenever you go to Europe, you go to other countries, the police is not as heavily armed as they're in the US, and the training process is really different. People from different races and different background are being killed in America because the police is too erratic. They react too fast. They don't get the time to analyze the situation and actually think about other solutions on how to handle the situation. Here the police is taught you should shoot to kill. So that's what they do on the field. So we must address that problem not only as a black problem but as a police problem.
That's a slippery slope there. You know why I say that's a slippery slope? Because I do agree that in general the police is very aggressive and brutal, right? But I'm not anti-police. I think police is important. If we don't have a police state, there's anarchy. We need the police. What I'm saying is, when we look at a situation where you go to a state where open carry is legal, when a police officer sees a man brandishing his gun, point at the police officer, and nothing happens, a white man, and then when you look at the situation where the black man has a gun, walking with it, not brandishing, and he gets arrested, there is a racial problem. There is a racial problem.
You asked me two questions,
Yeah.
right?
There is a racial problem there. So I get that we have to look at the police officers in general, but we have to have procedures in place that when police officers act based on race, based on race, which is incorrect, they have to be held accountable, and that's what Black Lives Matter is looking at. But you still didn't answer my second question, right? We should be concentrating
which
more.
Which I was going to answer. So first of all, like when you say that I agreed with every one of you that the police need to be held accountable whenever they do something like that. But I think the police problem is something that we can talk more in details, at a later time, like we can implement different stuff like cameras and also hold them accountable by the judges and also even just reform the whole justice system because there is also bias going on there. But the thing that I was talking about, how we can change the image of the black community, is that, I'm going to give an example of something I was reflecting on, thinking about our music industry and things like that. So I was thinking, we have so many successful musicians, whenever you look at people like T-Pain, PDD, and all those rappers that actually get to be people somehow. Like in my thought, I was like, those people, some of those people, they grew up in poor neighborhood. They get to experience all those different things. Like they know everything they had to go through. I think that those people are in a really powerful position in the sense that they know where they came from. And I think that because of that, they can try to address some specific problem at the root of, in the communities, like they can be and pushing that message forward that, though rap and other kind of domain, entertainment and stuff like that, they're quick and fast way for a black person to make money in America.
Wow.
We should be looking
Quick and fast. That's what you just quick and
No,
fast.
some people
You know
might
how
think that
many
is the
underground
quickest.
rappers? Okay, yeah, finish.
Oh yes, that's why there is so many black people in sport and entertainment.
Still doesn't make it
no,
quick
no,
and
no,
fast.
No, because people think that is the quickest.
Do you think
I
it's
say
quick and
people
fast?
think it's the quickest and fastest way to
Okay,
to
people
make
think.
a lot of
Okay.
money in a
Okay.
short amount of time. I think
Okay.
that we can all agree on.
Okay.
People think that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the thing is that I think those people, if all those people came together, they can really do something for the community. In the sense that they can send powerful message to the young people, they can start attacking openly all those gang stuff. Because for me, it's kind of sad to see people who are already at that level, they're still related to some gangs and they're doing some other stuff, and they're not really setting the message for the people coming after.
So you think they don't do that? Let me take an example. Akon. You know what Akon is doing for Africa right now.
Okay,
right?
I know. Okay,
Let him talk.
Let's take another case. Jay-Z. Like you sometimes listen to his songs like you a young black guy is living in the hood, but like you have to be focused on whatever you want to do. He's a self-made billionaire.
So
Okay.
wait before you continue, right? I like how you are saying that we have to look at the people who made it on the black community, and they have to come together and bring out the message that black people are more than just thugs and all that, right? That is good, and that we should do. But I don't think that's gonna in 10 years be able to implement something that will stop black people, that will change the society of how they view black people. Wait. Because I feel that Black Lives Matter is concentrating on something that's a little bit more concrete, something that's a little more you can hold at, which is laws, and showing that the criminal system is flawed at the moment. And we have to concentrate on that. Because what you're talking about, the way people view each other, you have to remember people have been viewing each other in this biased way for hundreds of years, right? Yeah. So you can't expect that to change in 10 years. And you're telling me the mother with 5 kids right now, she's saying, oh, let me wait 10 years until we can change the police officer's view on me. We can't. I want the views to be changed, but as long as the views are the same, I want laws to be in place to make sure that my fellow brothers and sisters, whether they be black, Latino, Asian, white, whatever, that they are not killed for reasons of their color or reasons that are not right. And most of the time, because they're poor, which is, I feel, it's the real reason where a lot of these people are getting killed.
They don't get punished. That's the problem.
So I think that's the point where we don't understand each other, is that the thing I'm trying to tell you guys is that changing law alone cannot change how people are viewed. It doesn't matter how many laws we change, as long as we don't change the root of the problem. We don't look at other things around it. We will never solve the problem. By implementing laws that police I agree that we should implement laws that's gonna make the police accountable and all those different things. But the things that we must also think about the future. So right now, we need to think also about the black neighborhood. How do we make our black neighborhood better? And the reason I talked about all those stars and other people is because I think that they have an amazing platform to actually talk to the community, to address them a different message.
And
You talked about Akon, right?
Yeah.
Akon is a singer coming from Senegal, and things like that. He's investing that money in Africa, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look again, like here, like how many singers actually kind of took the same path as Akon, in the same sense that he pretty much gave up everything that he had and change his platform in such a powerful way that he can actually get to talk to all those different people. I think people here, they enjoy a platform of privilege, and they don't use that privilege to actually get to address some of those problems. People have become individualistic in what they're doing. So because right now we're talking about community, so let me give some example of some of the things that I'm talking about. Some groups in my country came after our independence. So whether you're looking at Chinese people, you're looking at Indian people, you're looking at Lebanese, and even some Belgians that arrived recently, there's some people actually that arrived without exactly having a lot of cash with them. Mm-hmm. They are not what you can call rich or middle class or whatever you call them here.
Okay.
But those people, because they were united and they had the community, they were able to grow in terms of influence and power and different things like that. It's the same here in the US when you look at the Ethiopian community. Like when you look at the Bay or you just look at the US in general, how many Ethiopian restaurants do you have?
You have a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
How many Ethiopian restaurants do you have compared to?
So what is your point there?
Not so
That's
much.
what I'm saying. Speed up the
We're
point.
getting
So
away
my point- no,
from the
no,
purpose of
we are getting away from Black Lives Matter.
Exactly, we're getting away
No,
from
no, no,
the
I
purpose
don't
of Black Lives
know.
Matter.
I think because
Yeah.
okay, because my thing is that in order for the black life to matter and for us to actually be on a position where we can talk with other groups, we need to increase, our economical power and and our educational level, so that we can compete and actually get to talk with everyone on the same footstep.
And do you think that's gonna be easy?
Okay.
No, the problem is
I'm not even saying it's not easy. He's not saying it's not easy, but what he's trying to say is that that's what Black Lives Matter should be concentrating on. And he is neglecting to mention many groups that concentrate on that. If you look at the NAACP, and if you want examples of black people that are uniting to help people, Magic Johnson, Oprah Winfrey, we can name many of them. Ice Cube going into community trying to help out. This is happening, right? I think what you want it to be all under one organization, for that to happen, which I think is not the best idea, because it takes away people's want to help on their own. And when you mentioned that about different groups going into a country or whatever and doing great, where you said the Indians, the Lebanese, and that, that's not about race necessarily. That's mostly about culture and looking for opportunity. Because you will see black people going to African countries, black people from another African country going to another country and use the opportunities because they come in circumstances where they don't have those opportunities. So I don't think that's necessarily about race. That's about classism. When you have nothing but you have the brain and you go somewhere that gives you the opportunity to use the brain, then you take hold of the opportunity. I don't think that's about race, though. So I don't see how it's relevant in this discussion about Black Lives Matter.
I think it's relevant in the sense that because the black is not only, it's a community too. So it's like we have to think about how the community works in order for them to be able to talk to other groups on the same footstep.
I think that's a problem right now. Like, you talking about black community, we talking about Black Lives Matter movements. It's different. When you're talking about black community, you can talk about school, like how to be successful in life and everything. But right now we're talking about Black Lives Matter movement. Why did it start?
Okay, I have a question for you. How does a life matter?
How does it life matter?
Yeah. What are the basics needed for life?
It's a life. So as long as it's a life, it matters.
Yeah, but okay, if you just have a life,
Let's take
what are the different components that keeps you alive?
No, let's take the name Black Lives Matter, right? Where came
No, but can you guys answer the question that I just asked right now?
Okay, shelter, food, the necessities that every person should have to survive. That's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how can a life matter if the only thing that you can keep someone alive, but then you also have to look at his situation for his life to matter, because you can be alive, but you live like a dog.
Okay.
In that case, your life doesn't really matter.
Okay. What you mean? This is the exact problem that Black Lives Matter have with people who scream all lives matter. Because people who scream all lives matter, it's not that we're saying only black lives, it's a name deal. And the name is trying to say we matter just like everybody.
I'm saying exactly what you're saying. When you see like a black guy getting shot by a police officer and the police officer don't get punished, like that's when you talk about the Black Lives Matter movement.
And it's like what Black Lives Matter movement people say when people scream all lives matter, right? And you're not screaming all lives matter.
No,
you're not, of course, I know that. But when you start bringing all these different issues of the black community, it's like what they say. My arm hurts, and you're like, oh no, what about your leg? What about your heart? This is about the arm. If you want to talk about the other stuff, let's look at other avenues. But right now we're talking about the arm deal. And you can't tell us we're not being good enough by talking about the arm. What you're saying, what is the overarching problem? What caused the arm to get hurt and stuff like that, right? That's what you're talking about. And yes, we can concentrate on that. But right now we're trying to make sure that tomorrow a woman won't have her child taken away from her. And that's what we're concentrating on, something more concrete, such as the laws.
I think the problem is that when you look at that thing is that you're looking at the disease without looking at the symptoms. Because going again to your example of the arm, so you're talking about, so you have the arm that has a problem, right? But then you're looking at the different things that are causing your arm to hurt, right? It's not only because, let's say someone is pinching you here, and then someone else has a knife here, and stuff like that. Like, you have to look at all those different stuff that are causing your arm to hurt in order to solve the pain of the arm. Because by removing a small needle in the arm, which let's say is one of the problem, you're not solving the arm.
That's not what Black Lives Matter is about. Like, let's go back to the arm one more time, right? So if you go into the ER and you are bleeding, right? What's the first thing they're gonna do? Are they gonna find out why your arm's bleeding, or are they gonna stop the bleeding? They're gonna stop the bleeding, right?
So in this
case, if you are bleeding, about to die, first thing you're gonna do is stop the bleeding, right? Then we'll concentrate, why was the arm bleeding, how did it get, all that stuff. But you need to stop the bleeding. That's what Black Lives Matter is. We're trying to stop the bleeding. We're trying to stop the most important.
If I can just interject for a second, I feel like everyone speaking right now, you guys all have the end goal of this world where black people, that seems kind of obvious, where African Americans can be on the same level as every other race. It seems really intuitive. But the issue right now is that your long-term solution of instilling a deep-rooted culture that allows for that versus your short-term solution of instilling legislation that punishes policemen in the short term. These are two ideas that are contradicting. They're conflicting, but they're both also necessary.
Right.
So this conversation has been done. Everyone, we've talked about this, and we know that the issue exists. Both of you, all three of you guys, solutions you put out are real solutions. It's just that both can't be implemented together. So what we need is a compromise between these two, and this seemingly crazy paradox of such an intuitive thing that we can't just be good human beings and not profile each other, but also it brings up the question of, and sort of also what I want to move into later in the podcast, is whether the job of policing another human is really a job for another human.
Okay.
If you guys are familiar with the Stanford prison experiments, when a group of humans, just benevolent humans, are given randomly an unlimited amount of power over another group of humans, no matter how benevolent these people were in the beginning, they're going to exploit their power. They're going to abuse it. Now, but this doesn't mean that these people are inherently bad. Doesn't mean that when they go home they're beating their wives. Maybe they are.
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
So we need to realize that on either side of the argument, everyone thinks they're the good guy. So how do we find the compromise that allows people to, without having to sacrifice their freedoms and having to sacrifice their humanity, also be able to live in this pretty intuitive sort of way?
Can I comment on that? When you talked about the experiment where they gave these benevolent people all this power, and whether they were benevolent or not, they were still what did you say they were doing again? They were mistreating the others, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's the thing about the government, right? The government has a lot of power, but this is where laws come in place and checks and balances. We just want more checks and balances with police officers to ensure that when they want to mistreat others, if we make it harder for them to mistreat others. That is what I'm concentrating on the most. I understand that we have to concentrate. I understand that we have to concentrate on the overarching about human beings and how we see each other. But if we concentrate on that so much that we neglect doing these things about the laws, right? We won't get where we need to be fast enough.
So that's under the assumption that the best way to approach that is through negative feedback to the policemen. But negative feedback is shown to, jailing people as well. And these are shown to not be effective measures for changing a human's behavior. We need to find a way to give positive feedback for better behavior as police.
That's not a solution. That's not a solution.
The amount of risk that they put themselves at every single day.
That's not a solution. And we do that through laws as well. When Martin Luther King wanted a change for the civil rights, he didn't say white people start thinking about me differently. He said I wanted the same rights. I want it to be in paper that I have the same rights as you. He wasn't like, oh, let's find a way to make everyone love each other. He didn't say, well, he did say this one way to make everyone love each other with his dream. But he wasn't saying, oh, we need to change the way everyone views each other, because he understands that takes generations to change. But what he wanted at the moment was laws to ensure that people were treated the same way. And that's what we're looking for. I do want people to look at each other and not see skin color. But that will take time, and we are working towards that. But we still have to concentrate on laws to make sure that people are not able to use race for their own agendas.
I think for me, like going to what YJ pointed out, like when he was talking about those people in prison in the Stanford experiment being given power and them overusing that power by mistreating the people. So I think that whenever we talk about the police problem, I think that right now, at least, I feel like the problem in the group right now is that we are making the police problem only being a black problem. But I think, as I stated at the beginning of the podcast, that I think that the police problem is a police problem that we need to solve anyways, no matter which group we're talking about. The police in the US, they are overusing the power because there is no system of checks and balance that you mentioned. But that system of checks and balance doesn't only apply for them whenever they interact with black people. It's a system of check and balance that apply to them whenever they interact with any person.
Wait, so you're saying Black Lives Matter is always saying that we have to have a law that says police don't do this or black? No, we're not saying black people. We're just saying laws to make sure police everybody equally. That is the law that we're making. No one said we want laws that only affect black people.
Someone has to get punished.
My problem with what I'm saying is that the police in the US need to be reformed to follow what they are doing in other European countries. The police shouldn't be militarized. Because by militarizing the police will give them more power than they should have, and they're gonna misuse that power because they think that they're above the law.
You can't compare police.
I'm not. So you guys are not. I'm not comparing. I'm saying that in order to find the solution, what we need to do, we need to reform the police. The police in the US need to be reformed because the police has a problem.
Because they have.
It's not like the police.
You see the arms, right?
I think they should be armed. I think police officers should be armed and should have the resources they have.
Okay, so the thing is that in the US the police is being militarized. So there is a difference between having a gun that can neutralize someone versus a gun that can kill someone. That's why, like, whenever you see like
no, but I don't agree that we should remove the resources that might seem military, because you need to understand, while I may say that we have to make sure everyone's treated equally, I'm not denying that there are criminals out there that are at a higher capacity than you would see in European countries. We have cartels, we have organized crime here. Police need the resources they have at the moment.
Europe also has cartels.
Not at the level of the USA, though.
No, they have cartels, and now terrorism is growing and stuff like that.
So I think the police need the resources they have.
The way the police handle stuff.
Maybe
when I'm
training.
talking about, when I'm
You
talking
can't
about
the police in Europe. Like we have different reality. Like in the US, it's easy to get a firearm. So like if you get a firearm easy, why me as a police officer actually get a firearm?
But then following your statement, you can also say that because here people have firearms, the police can also react on that same. Because if people have guns, I have a gun and the other person has gun. I don't know that he has a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm like, I better shoot first before he shoots.
Whoa.
No, some people might be like that.
No,
you might also, because the thing is that I feel like the police need to be retrained and also need to be
There was this black guy who was selling CD.
Mm-hmm.
He died because they shocked him to death. They didn't shoot him.
Yeah. So the thing,
Let's try to do one last final thought because we're going in circles.
Yeah.
Do one last thought. Let's try to wrap up on sort of a possible way of approaching a solution. Obviously, we're not going to be able to come with a solution.
Sure.
But let's at least try to move away from just mentioning problems and try to come with a way to possible path to approach a solution.
Yeah.
Maybe Dio, you could start with the culture, culture, education.
Okay. I think that's some of the solutions that we can implement. So, as some of the solutions that we mentioned, I think that the police should obviously be reformed. in order for them to get to interact with the population in a different way. But regarding the black community in itself, what we can do in order, to improve ourselves and actually make ourselves, more powerful and get to integrate better into the society, I think that we need to reform, our education system, and we also need for the black community to invest more into the people, so in such a way that they can create the businesses, and they can invest, like in black stores, black banks, and other stuff. Because by having those means, I think it's gonna be easy for some of the sectors, to be financed by some other black people without waiting for someone else to come and influence our own lives. Because once you have those means, you're not waiting for someone to give you something. And I think that the biggest problem right now is that we are waiting for someone to find solutions for us, Yeah, and I think something else, that we can do is also look at what the future is looking like. Because when we look at the future, we see technology coming. And I feel like if we, as a black community, we do not react in time, whenever that future come on us, like we won't be able to compete with other groups because we were not invested enough into those technologies. So that's why I'm really proud to see whenever some other black people actually invested into things like technology, bioengineering, and other jobs of the future, so that we can also be the innovators of the future instead of just being what we are at this point in time.
Okay.
Lucy?
Okay, so I do agree with Theo in probably all of his points where we have to make sure that the black community advances itself as a community, concentrate on jobs that will be prevalent in the future and stuff like that. And a great way to do that is through education. We have to change our education system in such a way where black kids are encouraged to go into science and different things, but not necessarily saying they should be discouraged in going in what their talents are and what they love doing. But if we go back to what this whole conversation was about, the Black Lives Matter movement, I think what we're supposed to concentrate mostly here is finding a way to make sure that whether you have racial biases or not, that you're not able to act upon that. And what I like what YJ said is also looking at positive ways of showing positive reinforcement to the police into not causing racial bias. Like payments have to be better, making sure that they don't feel that they're going to a burden of a job, that they feel that they're going somewhere where they want to serve and protect. But also concentrating on laws that make sure that people when they do something bad, that they're held responsible.
Lauren, you want to wrap everything up?
No, I couldn't say better than Lucio. That's exactly what I was thinking about. We already have this discussion, and we agreed on this.
So that was part one, at least part one of the recorded series of Dio versus Lucio and Lonan. There are many more heated arguments to come. It's always nice to have these outside perspectives talking about these issues. Join us next week, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about theology and religion with these same people, maybe a few more people, again from all sorts of perspectives, all sorts of issues. This was Bare Minds checking out. Thank you for listening.
I want to talk about theology and religion.
Okay, what's up? What can I